Hey guys, welcome to this live session on Azure. My name is Hemant and I'll be your instructor for today. So yesterday we saw how we can configure. Yesterday there was, this is the part 2 of the series of Azure tutorial. Yesterday we saw how we can create virtual networks, why do we need them, and we saw how we can configure a database server and access it using our computer, right? So today we'll see how we can configure a web server and let's see how we can configure its settings using virtual networks, right? So for those of you who are new today, I'll summarize what we did yesterday and then move on to the hands-on. So for the best learning thing, I would recommend you guys to see the part 1 of the video that we did yesterday and then come back to this video. But anyways, I will summarize what we did yesterday so that it becomes easy for you to learn. All right, so let's go ahead and see. Let me summarize what we did yesterday. So first we saw what are virtual machines. So like I said, virtual machines are just like a raw server that you deploy on the internet. You rent those servers instead of buying them, and you can configure this server to be anything. It could be a web server or a worker tier environment. Then we saw why do we need virtual networks. So if you deploy two servers on the internet, you want these servers to interact with each other, you need a network, right? And that is the reason we need virtual networks. Why do we call them virtual is because there are no connections when you talk about cloud, or there are no routers or switches in the cloud, right? So because it's a logical isolation, we call this network as virtual, and this logical isolation of resources in the cloud is called a virtual network. Now you can configure the properties how you want the resources to interact with each other using the properties in the virtual network. In virtual network you have uh, for the components, the first component would be Azure subnets. So it is basically a sub part of a network, and there could be as many subparts as you want. There is a limited number, but say there are 3 subparts, and each subpart can be configured to have its own unique property. All right, so we discussed all of this in detail yesterday. So let me give you an example here that we say we have one server, right? And that server wants to access the internet, so we can give that particular part of the network the internet access, and to do that we can use subnets, and the rest of the network won't have the access to the internet. So that is possible, and that is possible using subnets, right? So that is the reason we use subnets. And then we saw what are network security groups. So network security groups are nothing but firewall. It basically acts like a firewall. So all these properties which I was telling you, that you want the internet access to a particular group of servers, and say you want the FTP connection to a particular server, all of that can be configured inside a network security group, which is attached to a subnet, right? So let me give you a quick diagram for this. So in this diagram, as you can see, this is the network security group, this is the subnet, and this is the virtual network. So you attach the network security group to your subnet, and your subnet is inside your virtual network. So your subnet is a sub part of virtual network, and with that virtual network, you attach the network security group. In this network security group, you will be configuring all your properties, and then comes the demo, right? So before the part till this, I mean, the theory for all of this has been discussed in the previous video. You can all refer to that. And in demo, we created a network security group. We created a virtual network. We deployed 2 servers that are a database virtual machine and a web server virtual machine. We configured the database part. Today in this session, I will show you guys how you can configure the web server. All right. So let me quickly go to my Azure dashboard. Alright guys, so this is my Azure dashboard, and for those of you who are new, I will show you how you can deploy a virtual machine. I've already deployed one, but let me quickly show you how you can deploy another virtual machine. So in the dashboard, you will go to virtual machines, you will click on add, and then you can give the nerve you have to choose an operating system. You'll choose the operating system, you will click on create, and then you'll have the screen where you can fill all the information, right? Once you fill in all the information, you just have to click on OK, and in the last part it will ask you to agree to the terms and conditions. You can do that, and your virtual machine will be deployed. Alright, so I've already deployed one virtual machine, that is for my web server. I reached till this part yesterday, so I will continue from here. Now in the web server, you can see these are the properties that I have attached to my web server. So this is basically my network security group for my web server. In this, I've configured that my web server should have HTTP connections, it should have HTTPS connections, and an SSH connection. Right now, if I want to add more properties to it, I can add by clicking here. That is inbound security rules. I'll go here, I'll click on add, and then I can add any property that I want from this list that is available here. Right, so I've already added the properties. Now what I'll do is I'll SSH into my web server and see how we can configure it. All right, so this is my web server page. So I've just gone to virtual. So if you go here in the virtual machines tab, you will find all the virtual machines that you have deployed over here. I selected my web server and then I reached this page. Now I need the IP address of my virtual machine to connect to, right? So as of now, if I copy this IP address and paste it here, you can see I cannot connect to my virtual machine as of now because there is nothing installed on this web server. So what we'll be doing now is we'll be installing the necessary softwares for my virtual machine to work. All right, so I will enter the IP address here and I'll click on open, and it'll ask me the login name. So I'll give the login name that I've configured, that is Adureka. Now it'll ask me the password, so I'll enter the password, that is this. And while it is connecting, let me show you that as you can see, the page is not working as of now. So we will install the necessary softwares here and then we'll try again to connect. So if you guys want, you can actually connect to this website. The IP address is 13.93.209.38. Right, so my team here, they will put it in the comment box for you to access. You can go to this IP address and you can see that as of now we cannot connect to this particular website. All right, so now so this is the Ubuntu machine, this is my server. I will install the necessary software. So I'll sudo update it first. Alright, so my updation is being happening, and now I will install the PHP software. So my website for that I want to deploy on this particular server, let me quickly show you the website that I want to deploy. So it's hosted on my local host as of now. Right, so let me go to my website. So here it is. Alright, so this is my website, guys. I'll enter a name, an email address, a mobile number, and a location. I'll click on submit, and it will enter all these values into the MySQL database that we created yesterday. Alright, so I'll show you how the values that will be reflected in the MySQL. But for now, let's configure our web server first. So this is the website that I'll be uploading to my web server. But first, I have to install the necessary software. So this is the PHP website, guys. So I'll install the PHP software now. So I'll sudo install the PHP. Alright, so it will install the PHP now. And then we can go ahead. Now since my website has to interact to MySQL, I also have to install an extension for my MySQL to work. So I'll do that as well once this is done. So yeah, so my PHP is installed. Now I'll install the extension for my PHP MySQL. So to do that, I'll sudo install the PHP extension, which is this. So I misspelled it, 1 second. Alright. Now for all of this to work, I also have to install the Apache server. So let us install the Apache server. So like I said, as of now, we cannot connect to it. So what I'll do now is install the Apache server. So sudo apt-get install Apache. So now if I try to connect to my website, I'll be able to do so. So let me quickly check my network security settings. So I'll go here, I'll type in network security groups, and that will list me all the network security groups which are present as of now. Alright, so I have two network security groups. This is the new web server network security group that I have configured. So I'll go here, and as of now you can see only the SSH rule is there. So what I'll do now is I'll install the Apache, I'll configure it to allow HTTP connections. So to do that, I will go to inbound security rules, I'll click on add, I'll add the HTTP rule. Here it is. I will click on allow and I'll click on OK. Alright, so my security rule is being deployed. I also have to configure it to have the HTTPS rule as well. So I'll configure it to have the HTTPS rule. I'll click on OK. And yes, I have the security rule for this as well. Now let me restart the Apache 2 service. Sudo service Apache 2 restart. Right, and if now I try to connect to my website, yes, so I can see that Apache 2 page is now working, right? So if you guys will now try to access this IP address, the Apache 2 page will start working. All right, guys. So now, since our page is working, the next task is to connect through FTP and upload my website. So to do that, I'll have to first add the FTP rule in the inbound security rules. So to do that, I'll click on add, and in the name, I'll type in FTP, right? The service would be FTP, and then the action is allow, and I'll click on OK. So it is now creating the security rule. And once this is done, I'll be able to connect through an FTP software that I have. This is called FileZilla. All right. So you'll enter the IP address here, your username, your password, port number for FTP connections. It's 22, and then you'll click on Quick Connect, and then we'll have the all the directly listing of that server over here. All right. So as I can see, the FTP rule has been added. So now I'll go to the dashboard. I'll go to my web server. I'll copy the IP address. I'll paste it here in the host. The username for it, that is Edureka. Password, let me enter the password. And now the port number. I'll click on Quick Connect. Now it will take some time to connect to the directory of my server. So now I have the directory. Alright, so now I'll have to upload my website, right? So for doing that, I'll have to go to this particular directory, that is /bash/www/html. Alright, so this is the directory where you will be uploading your website. Now, by default, you cannot upload your website. So let me show you what I basically mean. If I try to upload my files here, you'll see that I'll have an error, so that file transfer has failed. So that is because over here we don't have the access rights. I cannot read write in this directory. Now for doing that, I'll have to allow myself from the shell. So I'll do that. Let me cancel all the uh, file transfers that are happening. All right, so now I'll go here. I will type sudo chmod hyphen capital R 777. So this will basically give me the read-write access to this particular directory. And once I have that, I can upload my files. Alright, so this should be it. Now if I try to upload my files over here, alright, so now like I said, if I try to upload my files, it should upload it successfully. So as you can see, the file transfer has now started. Right, I don't need the index.html. So basically this is the Apache page that you were seeing. So we can delete this page. Okay, so my transfers have finished. So now if I go back to my website and I try accessing it, I will be able to see the website that I just uploaded. Right, so this is the website that I just uploaded. Now let me show you the database server that I configured yesterday. So for that, let me open my command prompt, go to my MySQL installation. So this is my MySQL installation guy. I'll type in the command mysql-h and now the host name, right? So for the host name, I need the IP address of my server. So for that, I will go back to my dashboard and my database server, which is here. I'll copy the IP address for my database server. I will paste it here. And then the username, which is Edureka, the port number, which is 3306, and then the password. Alright, so it'll ask me the password. And with this, I'm there inside my MySQL shell. Now this MySQL shell, I have created a database called entry. So let me show you. So as you can see, there's a database called entry. In this, all my website data will go, right? And inside entry, there's a table called entries. So as of now, if you can see, this table would be empty. Right, so this table is empty. Now my website will actually upload all the information that I'll be typing in here to this MySQL shell. So if you guys want to try this website out, you can go to this IP address, you can type in all your information, click on submit, and it'll get reflected over here, right? So before you could actually do that, let me change the index file. So I'll have to update it with the IP address of my server, of my database, right? So for doing that, give me a second. I'll go here in the host name. This is the IP address that I have to change. I'll change it with the IP address of my database server. So I'll save it. And now I'll override this in my server. So I'll take this file index.php, paste it here. Now it'll ask me whether I want to override the file. So I'll say OK. And now it has transferred my file. Alright, so now if I enter details as in my name, my email address, my phone number, alright, and then my location. So now if I click on submit, it'll enter the values in the MySQL. So now if I refresh my MySQL, I'll be able to see the entry which I just made. Alright, so this is it guys. I have configured my web server on the Azure VM, and we have configured it from scratch. So you'll find there's a service in Azure called app service. So you could do that automatically. All of this, that is configuring your web server and everything, you just have to upload your code. It would have installed everything. But it's good to it's good to learn from scratch, right? You should understand how things happen in the background, and that is the reason, that is the motive behind today's demonstration today. All right. So with that, guys, I will end today's session. Right. So let me summarize what all we did. So we created a virtual network, we created a subnet, we created a network security group, we created a VM, we attached the VM through the subnet, and since the network security group was attached to the subnet, our VM could access the properties in the in my network security group. In my network security group, I allowed all the HTTP connections, right? I allowed the SSH connection, and that is the reason I could connect through SSH, right? And that is the reason you guys could also connect to this website if you try to open it. And in case I would have denied all the traffic from HTTP, you guys won't have been able to access the website. And that is the reason we need firewalls. All right. So this is what we did today, guys. So thank you for attending today's session. I hope you guys learned something new today. Thank you for attending today's session. See you in the next session. Have a nice day ahead. Goodbye.